Hello. It's your girl, Erica, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. Happy Monday, guys. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having an amazing day. I am here to do my normal weekly review of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Of course, this is season 16. This was episode 11, and I think it's called Let's Be Honest. Yeah, that's what it was. So I just wanted to say shout out to you guys. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I know that most of you follow so many content creators here on YouTube. Like I said before a million times, I am a new I'm a new YouTuber, and I would love to have your support. I support so many people. Shout out to Andrew Gabor, Rodney The Voice, LTV Productions, Mr. Chalaki, DJ Richie Sky, Erica De Niro. And Mims. Those are people that I listen to on a normal daily basis. And I just want to say I appreciate all that they do. They may never see my video, and that's okay. But if they do, I just want to tell them you guys are doing a phenomenal job. Please keep up with what you're doing. Please continue to do it because you guys are phenomenal. I normally when I do my reviews, I don't listen to anyone first because I like to get my thoughts out. I don't want to be swayed, and I don't even think I would be swayed, but I just like to get my thoughts out first and then sort of compare notes, just to say, okay, yeah, they kind of feel the same way, or maybe get a different perspective. So that's how I tend to do it. So again, that's why I'm here, to get this thing rolling with The Real Housewives of Atlanta. You see I have my notes here. I have plenty of notes because although there wasn't a whole lot going on in this episode, or we didn't really get a whole lot from the girls, like a whole lot of group scenes and stuff like that, there was really a whole lot of meat to this episode. So let's get into it. The episode opened up with our girl, the MVP, Mrs. Angela Oakley. She and Charles were out to have lunch or dinner or whatever the case may be. We got the opening scene with them. Let me just say this before I get into what they were actually talking about. Angela and Charles actually had a confessional together. What I will say is Charles Oakley is a very interesting character. What you see is what you get. He doesn't have a filter. He doesn't hold back. He says what he means, and he means what he says. But he comes across very nonchalant, very, very cold at times. It is a little difficult to kind of receive him in a sense. Of course, that's not my man, but he is a tough pill to swallow because he is so emotionless and sort of dismissive. I know it's very difficult for most women to tolerate a man like that. Angela even asked him in the confessional, did he love her? He sort of wanted to skip around the subject and not just answer. And most men who do care about you, they would give something. They would say, of course I do. They wouldn't try to hurt your feelings on camera. But Charles did not, and I repeat, he did not give her what she wanted. Angela tries to do a really good job of covering for him and saying, oh, he's just playing. He wants to be the total opposite of me. He wants to, just give me a hard time. But Angela, it does sort of make it just looks kind of bad that Charles never shows you a sensitive side or shows you a softer side of him, and we never really get that warmth from him when it comes to you. So it is a little tough to watch, but nonetheless, that's your husband, and she has to deal with him. But they were talking about Angela's sister doing lunch. And Angela was saying she's been having issues with her sister. Charles was kind of giving her advice and saying that, hey, you got to step up. You got to be a little tough. You have to back away. You have to stop trying to help so much. And, she was like, well, I've always wanted to take care of, my family. And Charles was like, look, I've been there, done that. I've gone down that road. I have the t-shirt, and all of that. But, he said, look, my family was the Tyler Perry family before Tyler Perry ever introduced us to his family. So Charles is basically saying, hey, you can do what you want to do, but I'm going to tell you that tough love is the best love when you're dealing with family members like your sister and others. So that was the end of their scene. We move forward, and then we see Shamia. She met up with Cynthia. Okay. Shamia met up with Cynthia, and of course she was still a little upset about the event that Portia's pampered event. And she was basically saying, of course, she discussed what Miss Diane said about Portia should not trust her. She was trying to tell Cynthia she was very hurt about it. She also said, like, the girls don't understand friendship and all of those things. So Shamea is sort of taking on this, I don't want to say this victim mentality about it, but she is kind of saying, like, it's on the other girls. Well, Shamea, let's park right here and let's just deal with what it is. Shamea, you want to be respected in your friendship. You and Portia, to me, have probably, or from what you're saying, or how we can interpret it, that maybe this friendship has been one-sided sometimes. Of course, you like Portia as a friend. You always talk about how fun she is, how much you laugh. You're always bigging up Portia and letting us know that Portia is a great girl or a great friend to you. Well, there's also some other things. There's a downside to that. And the downside to that is that you feel dismissed sometimes, or you don't feel that you're as important to her as she is to you. You were trying to explain that to Cynthia. Cynthia said, look, you and Portia seem to have a very good friendship. And Cynthia was saying that even at this point in time in her life, she would love to have a friendship like you and Portia. She even referred back to her friendship with Nene and the issues that they had. Shamea said that the girls don't understand friendship. Well, the girls actually understand friendship. I'm at their ages, I'm almost sure that a lot of them do have best friends. They may not be on the show. This is a group of girls who are not really friends. So just because, they may say certain things on the show doesn't mean they don't understand friendship. They don't understand your friendship. They don't understand the friendship you have with Portia, because they do look at you as a lapdog, and they see you sort of catering to Portia or giving more in this than Portia does. And I think they all have an opinion. Shamea, you made your mistake when you talked to Angela and Drew about it. Drew didn't say anything, but Angela did. Now, Shamea, Angela sees how you're moving. And we already said that Angela is the MVP of this season. She's moving like a veteran. I've said it probably 3-4 episodes ago. She's moving like a veteran, and we love that. But you also have sort of pissed Angela off. So anything that Angela can get on you, you open up that door. You sort of you gave her this gift box. You handed it to her on a silver platter and said, hey, I've been angry with my friend Portia. What you thought you were doing was sort of confiding in people that weren't going to say anything. And what you did is you sort of gave it to your enemy. That is not their fault. That's your fault, because you presented it to them. But guess what? You needed someone to talk to. You're tired of pretending about what it is with Portia, and you let the cat out the bag. Angela in turn said, oh, she's giving me this gift. Well, let me share. Sharing is caring. And so Angela shared with Portia exactly what you said. Had Angela probably done that to Drew? Maybe, maybe not. Had done that to some of the other girls? Maybe not. Probably Brittany for sure. She may have done it to Portia as well. But like I said again, Shamea, she did it to you simply because she felt disrespected from you about the whole Portia saying that she would sleep with Charles. She's angry with you about that as a wife and how you handled that. So she said you get what you get. She's not concerned about breaking up your friendship, because she really doesn't feel like the friendship is authentic to begin with. Angela's seeing some cracks in that foundation. So she said, look, let me just go ahead on and really knock this down, so either they can start over or let the foundation be broken completely. So that's, Shamea, I just want you to understand that it's not everyone else's fault that you and Portia are having issues. You and Portia have been walking around forever, ignoring it, sweeping it under the rug, pretending that all was okay when it really wasn't. And Cynthia did try to be positive and say, look, she hopes that you guys can work it out, that you can move forward. And my thing is, if it's meant to be, then it will happen. So far, what we're seeing is the fallout again of Shamea and Portia. So we move on. We see Drew. Angela, Cynthia, and Portia. They went bowling. And, they had like a good little time. Like I said, Angela, her little shade in the confessionals is on fire. And I do believe that Angela would actually say that. I don't think she's not a confession assassin where she, or confessional assassin, where she would say something about a person and not say it to their face. I do believe that Angela was just what she says in her confessionals, she will say to their face. So, but you know, you can't help but laugh at Angela. So they were talking, they were sort of playing around, having a good time. And so Portia decides to, they sit down. Of course, they bowl a little bit. No one was really doing anything worthwhile. So they sit down. Portia starts talking a little bit more about her divorce. She's having issues with PJ, because PJ is starting to ask questions. Well, that's typical for a child. I don't know about you guys. I know when my parents separated and they were headed for a divorce. I think I was about like 5 years old when it started. And I remember, guys, I mean, this is no secret. I mean, you know, I don't mind sharing, but I remember my mom put my dad's clothes out. I was like, what is going on? Like, even at 5, I didn't fully understand what was going on, but I knew that my parents weren't getting along. They didn't do a whole lot of arguing in front of me. It wasn't anything, you know, violent or anything where I was scared or concerned about, but I knew that they weren't getting along and something was wrong when my mom put my dad's clothes out. And I mean, she put them out. So PJ is probably around that same age, and she's starting to see things. She's picking up things. She feels things. She has a sense that something is wrong. Initially, Portia told PJ that Pop was at work. Well, this is the thing that I wrote down. Like, Portia needed to tell PJ a soft version of the truth. The same way that you explained to PJ that mommy and daddy did not work and you're going to go visit daddy at his house and mommy's going to have her own house. Well, you should have told her the same thing about Pop, aka Simon Guobadia. You should have said to PJ, hey, mommy and Pop aren't getting along right now. You know, we love you. And Pop is just, you know, he's taking a break and mommy's going to take a break here. But, you know, we love you. And he said he's going to call you when he can. Or even if you didn't even want to lie and tell her that, you could have just said, look, he won't be around, but you have your daddy. You know, your daddy loves you. And any questions that you have or anything you want to know, just know that we love you. We're going to protect you. Nothing is going to happen to you. You're going to be just fine. And I think that's what Portia should have done. You know, Portia is relying. She keeps crying and being upset about how Simon has shut her out. Simon doesn't care about you or your daughter, and he's showing you at this point. Whether it's being done just because he's angry or not, it doesn't matter. It remains to be seen. But he's showing you exactly who he is, and you want everybody to sympathize with you and empathize with you over this situation. But a lot of people are looking at you like sideways, like, girl, you only knew this man for less than 60 days. You guys were engaged like what, in a week's time or a couple of weeks? You were already engaged to be married. You weren't even together 6 months before you actually even, you know, before you up and married the guy. So I think a lot of people, they're trying to sort of slow walk this thing with Portia, but at the same time, I think both Angela and Cynthia, you know, Cynthia said, look, I've been through a divorce twice. I know what it feels like. But at the same time, too, Cynthia was in a relationship with these guys for a while. When she married Peter, I think they were together for 4 years. She was at least with Mike 1 or almost 2 years before they got married. Portia was only with this guy a couple of weeks before they decided to get married. So it's a little different here. And I think, Portia, you're going to have to really deal with yourself. It's not about dealing with Simon or people addressing Simon. You need to address yourself in this. So Portia was saying she's so fragile, and she was even saying that she doesn't feel like she can even deal with the Shamia drama. Well, the Shamia drama was going to come, and I think what Portia wants Shamia to do is like what she normally does, where Shamia just rushes in and she's there for Portia, and, you know, nothing else. She's just there as a friend, and whatever Portia needs, Portia just wants people to cater to her, and she is used to Shamia doing that, and right now, Shamia doesn't seem to be doing that, and I think that's why Portia's actually having an issue with Shamia. So we move on, and that was just the end of that scene. So we move on. Drew was in the car. She had just met with her attorney. She was on the phone. She called her mom, and Drew and her mom actually have a really good relationship. You can tell that it's very genuine, very sweet. Her mother's very loving and kind toward her. It doesn't seem fake and phony. And Drew was telling her mom that Ralph has not turned in any of his financial paperwork, or no one knows what Ralph is making, but Ralph has now requested 40% of Drew Sidora LLC. They even tried to start a new business or a new LLC, and then he wants 40% of that. So Ralph is, going for blood at this point. And, Drew was kind of upset. I know, like I said, I say this in all of my videos. Drew, people don't like Drew. They've always said she's a liar, she's phony, she's fake. And they really, really, really don't like Drew. But the sad part about it is, no matter what Drew has lied about, Drew is telling 100% of the truth about Ralph. And that's what happens when people sort of lie or people label you as a liar. Same thing with Phaedra. Drew and Phaedra are both PKs. Like I said, PKs always had this they put on this face of perfection, and they have this image that they have to uphold because they're judged so much. If you've been around PK, if you know have any friends where their parents or their grandparents were pastors or ministers, then they sort of have this image to uphold. And it's not that they don't want to be themselves, but they don't know how to. They have to sort of wear many faces depending upon who they're around. And Drew and Phaedra are the exact same way. Everybody called Phaedra a liar. Well, we know Phaedra lied about some stuff, and Drew has somewhat stretched the truth about some things. But one thing that they haven't lied about is those men. Apollo was a monster, and now Ralph is a monster. And I said the one thing about it is that they're telling the honest God truth about these men, and people still don't believe them, and that's sad. You can just tell that Drew seems a little defeated when it comes to Ralph, because she knows how devious and how manipulative he is, and it is really breaking her down. But we'll get back to that because her mom actually had a good conversation with her about Ralph. But we'll get to that as time goes on, as I continue to go through my review. So then Angela has a conversation with her mom. We meet her mom for the first time, or we see her mom for the first time. Her mom was saying she doesn't really want to move in the house that Angela has for her, or she kind of wants to be self-sufficient. I guess, and I think her mom doesn't want to feel like Angela is like an Indian giver. And in that way, Angela can pay for things, but at the same time, if Angela gets mad, Angela has to control that way, and then also she gets angry, she can sort of take it back. And I just kind of had that feeling that that's what her mom meant when she was saying she wanted to be self-sufficient, because she doesn't want Angela giving her something, taking it away, and she doesn't want Charles to have a say-so in it either. So they were kind of joking. Angela was saying about her sister. She said that, she and the sister don't get along. And she was saying that she does want her mom to somewhat take care, sort of take her side when it comes to the sister. But the mom was kind of saying she didn't really know exactly what happened in that situation, and she didn't want to really get involved. And the mom also kind of mentioned Charles, and the mom was saying that, she likes Charles, she loves him as a son-in-law, but she's always going to take her daughter's side. So that's what she was saying. Like, don't think that I don't take your side. You're saying that I don't take your side when I'm dealing with your sister, but you need to see that I take your side in other things, like especially when it comes to Charles. You're my baby, so I'm going to take your side. And she said, I like Charles, even though, we're the same age. So she was throwing shade at Angela for being with an older man. So Angela was like, oh, you throwing shade? And mom was like, yeah, but it's true, So it was kind of cute just to see Angela really sit down with her mom. But what I wrote in my note, and that's why I'm kind of looking down too, guys, because I don't want to leave anything out. I said that Angela and her mom have definitely had a back and forth relationship. They've definitely been in and out. They are not Drew and her mom for sure. You can just tell that Britt and her mother have a little strange relationship, and Angela and her mom have a little strange relationship as well. You can tell that some of the moms on here, they have a solid relationship with their mother. The other ladies, it's like, some problems there. But anyway, we don't want to focus on that because, you know, of course, Angela's mom was willing to even just give us that little bit, and she didn't hold back. So she definitely has personality, and I'm sure we'll see more from her, you know, as time goes on. So Kelly and her daughter, they were Kelly's daughter is still learning how to drive. Kelly's daughter, I think, was driving an Escalade, and they were out on the street. And Kelly's daughter, you know, is kind of like one of those things, like these kids today, like, they want to be in control so bad. And don't get me wrong, because we all were teenagers, and when we were teenagers, we thought, like when I was a teenager, I thought I knew quite a bit, even though I really did not know much. You know, I hadn't had a whole lot of life experience, but you couldn't tell me anything. But the thing about it is like, number one, she was driving a very expensive car. If she's not driving that well, Kelly, why would you let her drive such an expensive car? I know that parents like to do that, but sometimes what is best to do, even if you have money, put your kids in driving school. Let them go to driving school. Don't use your Porsche, your Range Rover, and all these expensive cars to teach them how to drive. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not worth it in doing that, because they do have to learn even the basics, you know, and it takes years of driving to really get the hang of it. Just because you get your driver's license, your learner's permit, or your driver's license doesn't mean that you're the best driver. Like, it just takes time, guys. Like, everyone knows that. Like, it takes time. So, you know, I was thinking about, like, when I first started driving, like, my father had me in the parking lot for a minute, y'all. Like, he was like, pull forward, back up, pull forward, back up, pull forward, back up. Maybe, you know, as time went on, I went a little further, and then I backed up a little further, and, you know, went forward a little further, backed up a little further. Then he had me circling that parking lot, circling that parking lot, circling that parking lot. My mom even took me out doing the same thing, you know, and I also even went to driving school. By the time I went to driving school, I could pretty much drive. I wasn't one of those ones, I'm sorry, who had gotten behind the wheel for the first time. So I could pretty much drive, but the driving school, it just enforced what I had already learned. So that was also a good experience for me. And I'm glad that my parents allowed me to go to driving school on the weekends, because it even helped too. You know what I mean? Because, you know, with your parents, you're like, oh, Mom, I got it. Daddy, I got it. And really and truly, you know, with an instructor, you're going to make sure that you listen, because your instructor is somewhat grading you. So, you know, that was a good experience. And Kelly needs to do the same thing. Chloe, I love to see your independence. I know you want to be independent, but baby girl, you don't need a BMW. You know, most people who have bought their kids these nice cars, they crash them or they have accidents with them. Get your daughter like a little bucket. Let her just learn how to be responsible first. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong. I know when you have money, it's a difference. I know you want your children to have the best. I am not saying that at all. I'm not discouraging anybody from giving their child the best. But when they are young, they don't really have the responsibility, or they don't have the understanding of how these cars have to be serviced, how, you know, you have to take care of your car, how you have to keep it clean, how you pay a note, insurance, all of these things for a car that they don't even have a clue about. All they know is that they're putting, you know, they're starting that car up, that ignition up, and they're pulling off and they're driving. They just want gas money and money to stop and get food and all that stuff, having no idea what it takes to even maintain a car. So Kelly, be careful. I know you want to give your daughter the best. She deserves the best, but the best right now for her may just be a cheaper car until she has much more experience in driving. So we can move on to Drew and her mom. They finally have a conversation. So Drew was telling her mom, you know, of course, her mother flew in from Chicago. Her mom was saying she felt like Drew needed her. So they have a real conversation. Drew keeps saying that they're co-parenting, and they're doing better at co-parenting than they are at you know, being a couple. Well, Drew is also in denial too. See, Drew knows that Ralph probably really wasn't the best for her, and they got together fast. Ralph gave us the timeline last week. He said he and Drew were married. They were engaged After 2 months, they got married at the 5-month mark. Drew was pregnant by the 8th-month mark. So, which means they hadn't even been together for a year and they were already married. They didn't even know each other, to be honest, especially at their age. So Drew's mom was saying, look, let's be clear about who Ralph is. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to put on this face and this image like everything is perfect. Uh-oh, I don't want anybody to tell me I'm a failure. I don't want anybody to say, ha, I told you so. I don't want anybody criticizing, because when I came on this show, I came onto the Real Housewives of Atlanta saying I had a pretty good marriage, although Ralph went to Tampa, but Drew was still trying to give us the song and dance that they were okay. And we saw all of that blow up in our faces. So her mom was saying, look, and if this man really even cared about you just as the mother of your kids, he wouldn't try to do anything that would cause you to fail. And that was, I love that her mom told her that, because that is true. Anyone who cares about you doesn't set you up for failure. They don't set you up where it's going to set you back and then in turn hurt the children. And Ralph does not care about those kids. He really, really doesn't care about those kids. And it bothers me because he's fighting for control. He's fighting to be, he just wants to be on TV. I keep saying that Ralph is Apollo 2.0. He's a narcissist. He's very cruel. You can tell he's a very mean guy. People will say, you know, how do you know that? You don't know him? It's just my perception, guys. I don't feel good about Ralph at all. I don't even really feel like Ralph really loves his kids. I think when they first started, Ralph said that his mom didn't raise him. At some point he went to live with his dad, or something happened where he didn't have a relationship with his mom. So there's some mommy issues there. I don't know exactly what they are or all of what it entails, but there's definitely some issues there. Sometimes when men have mommy issues, they tend to not like women. And we see that in so many instances, including Ralph. So Drew kind of broke down a little bit. You know, she kind of walked away. But her mom was telling her the truth. You know, her mom was saying, look, these kids, you think these kids don't know what's going on, because Drew was saying that the course is still saying that they don't need to tell them that they're getting a divorce. And the mom was like, basically, you shouldn't hide anything from these children, because basically they're acting out. She said they don't listen at all. Basically, she was saying, Drew, your children are becoming bad. They're becoming unruly. And Drew really didn't want to hear that. And what mom would want to hear that? But it was the truth, and her mom needed to tell her. She was being open and honest with her. And you know, she was saying, let me go to my notes a little bit. You know, she was, and Drew's mom also, I didn't want to leave that out. Drew's mom was saying that the living arrangement is ridiculous. Mom, I agree with you 100%. Even though he's in the basement or another part of the house, I don't even care if he was at the guest house. Ralph should have his own place. Ralph should be, that's the reason why they're getting a divorce, because they had a tumultuous relationship, a tumultuous marriage. He needs to be away. They need to be separated. And so, you know, I agree with Drew's mom. Drew's mom was 100% correct. And like I said, I think Drew is so busy trying to make things nice and make things good and trying to live in this fantasy world. But in actuality, Drew is hell, and it's hell for the kids, and the kids are acting out because the toxicity of that house and him being there. And, you know, when people are angry and people are going through things like a divorce, and I'm not even trying to get deep, y'all, but people just carry like evil spirits, like their anger and their bitterness. It just causes a lot. You know, have you ever been around somebody and it just shuts your whole mood down, or someone walks in the room and it's like everybody like tenses up, because it's just that spirit that they carry, and it causes people, you know, to sort of sucks the goodness and the peace and the joy out of where, you know, when they come around. And that's what Ralph is doing. And believe it or not, you know, I'm not saying that Drew is walking around there like smiling and singing and happy all the time, but Drew gives me the impression that she would never do anything to like come against her kids at all. But Ralph, I can see Ralph, well, your mom is doing this and your mom is doing that, and he's walking around being, you know, a jerk and so many other things that I would like to say. He's around there acting up, and you know, the kids see that, and they love their father, so they don't know what to do. So it's like Should I go to my mom? Should I go to my dad? I'm stuck in the middle. And he's okay with that because he's a person that he competes with Drew a lot. So he will even if it means that, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to pull this down. He would have to compete for their love. He would do it without a doubt. So I don't like that at all. And I hope that they can get this divorce and get Ralph out of there. The sooner the better. Even if they have to leave their house and Drew has to start completely over. Honey, your peace is worth far more than that house. Like, just let it go, because Ralph definitely has a hatred for Drew. He's very jealous of Drew, and we cannot get around that. We cannot ignore it. You see it every single time he mentions her or he's around her. He just has a smug, ugly look on his face, like he squints his eyes like that, like it's just, you can just tell he's a dishonest person. So Drew, you grew up, believing in God. You grew up, praying. You grew up and having faith. And, let those, put those prayers to action. Have faith. Step out on faith. Walk away from this, even if you have to start completely over. But it's better to just not hold on to anything. And, let go and let God. That's all I can say about that, girl. But I'm glad, like I said, Drew and her mom have a great relationship. I love their relationship. Her mom looks really good, all things considered. I know Drew's father passed away, but her mom looks really good. And she could even be at peace, because I'm sure being a caretaker is a lot on anybody. But it was just good to see Drew and her mom, and knowing that Drew had that support. So we finally get to the main event. And Portia and Shamea meet up. And, Shamia's sitting there. Shamea has her stone face on. She's ready to deal with Portia. And we know that Shamea is a softie when it comes to Portia, but I think Shamea feels she has to be this way because she knows how Portia's going to deal with her. So, of course, Portia comes in all dolled up, brand new hair, makeup done, to a T. She has on a really, like, a little dress, very girly. She's all dolled up and looking perfect. And so Shamea was like, oh, let's deal with this. So Portia, of course, came in with the attitude like, I hear you, but I don't hear you. I'm not going to deal with this. And we know Portia's just going through about Simon. It's really not even about Shamea, because she couldn't care less about Shamea. She's more concerned about Simon and what's going on, because remember, she just told us in a scene with Angela and Cynthia that she's angry because Simon is now ignoring her and ignoring PJ. So that's what she's really, really mad about. She ain't worried about you, girl. Shamea, you can forget about it, girl. You ain't got no place. You ain't got no skin in the game when it comes to that. Girl, please. I don't care how long you've been friends, girl. Numbers, that's all it is. You just got a bunch of years behind you at this point, because Portia really ain't tripping off you right now, Shamea. But anyway, so Shamea, she admitted that she was upset with Portia. She did. She told her the truth, that she had been upset with her. And Shamea said that Portia is very dismissive, and she's more she's concerned about that. She feels like their relationship is one-sided and everything. And Portia really didn't say a whole lot. And at first, Portia broke down. Portia went to the bathroom. Of course, that's Portia's technique now, to run away, to avoid something. I just need a minute. I just need a minute. I just need a minute. My thing is, if it's genuine and it's real, let it come. And so, Portia even mentioned to Shamea, oh, you're doing all of this for the show. Doing what for the show? But then Portia, you said for you to give your real life, they had to pay you more money. Like, how sincere are you? Like, you're talking about Shamea basically doing things for the show, but what are you contributing to the show? Like, so you're basically saying because you didn't get more money that you don't even have to give us your real life? Like, what's up with that? I was like, Portia, you a bold one, child. She is a bold one. So, Shamea had the attitude, and it reminded me, guys, I'm sure you guys remember that in episode, I think it was like season 8 or 9, when Candy and Phaedra met up, and Candy was so mad, and it was like everything that Phaedra said, Candy was on her like white on rice. Like, she had a response like right then and there. And Candy ate Phaedra up in their meeting. And I think Phaedra was kind of being a little sincere with Candy, but Candy was so angry with Phaedra that she didn't even care. And that's what I saw with Shamea and Portia. Portia did feel bad about some things, but it didn't even matter because Shamea at this point is so tired of being the lapdog that she wants a voice of her own, and she wants to be, you know what the real issue is? Shamea wants to be on the same level with Portia now. She doesn't want to be the lapdog. She doesn't want to be the assistant. She doesn't want to walk in Portia's shadow anymore. She wants an equal relationship. And the problem is Portia wants Shamea to stay exactly where she's been all this time. Portia is comfortable with Shamea being the servant. Portia is happy with Shamea walking in her shadow. Portia is okay with Shamea not being that girl or having that voice. And Shamea is tired of it. And that's the same way, you know, like I said, Shamea has that same posture, that same disposition that Candy had with Phaedra. It's like, girl, you've been playing me all this time, and I've been playing nice because I loved you and you were my friend, but those days are over. I'm not taking it no more. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel, and I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to leave you and our friendship here. And that's where Shamea was kind of, you know, she had that same stance with her. If you go back and watch, you know, Candy and Phaedra, and I'm sure you guys already know because a lot of you guys are fans of the show, so you've been watching for a while, so you remember how Candy ate Phaedra up at that restaurant, and Shamea was ready to do the same thing to Portia. So when Portia came out of the bathroom, Portia was like, oh, can we box the food up? She asked the waitress, and Shamea was like, oh, you ready to go? And Portia was like, oh, I thought you were ready to go. You know, I thought you were kind of, you know, I thought it was kind of over. Shamea hadn't even scratched the surface of what she really wanted to say to you, but you're not in a position or you're not in a posture to receive it. You know, you just started crying and just saying, Shamea, I'm going through so much. I can't deal with this. That's basically what you said. She cried a little bit, and as soon as she started crying and she saw that you weakened down a little bit and you let your tears fall, Portia was like, got her. Because that's all Portia wanted you to do. Because the minute, if you look at it closely, and I only watched the episode one time and I caught it. Some of you may have watched it a few times, but I hope you caught it. Portia was crying, Shamea, just stop. We can't do this. I can't do this. I don't want to do this with you. And when Shamea kind of let her guard down just a little bit and accepted and had that real friend moment with Portia, and Shamea started crying, and Shamea said, I don't want it like this or whatever. Portia perked back up. Portia was like, okay, girl, like, let's twerk, let's have fun, let's whatever. Because that's all Portia wanted to do. She wanted to get Shamea back in the submissive position again. And when she saw that she had Shamea where she wanted to, Portia was back to normal. Check it out. Go back and watch it. She was just like as if they had not even had a conversation. When Portia came in there, she was like a meek little lamb. And then when she finally saw that she got Shamea where she wanted, yeah, girl, I'm fabulous, girl. Yeah, I got it together, girl. I got my little dress on. I got my hair done, girl. Looking good, girl. She was back to normal. And like I said, Shamea, she wants to, let me see what I said. And I just said this in my note. That's what I'm looking at. I said, Portia and Shamea said they're going to try and do things differently and get better and get back to a better place, but I'm not sure if it'll work. And that was like pretty much like my last note. I'm not sure if it'll work because I feel like I said they're in two different places. Shamea never really got over some things that Portia did. Portia didn't care because she's used to having Shamea in sort of like in a lower position under her, and that's how she's okay with that. But Shamea is saying, hey girl, I got my peach, and you know, I want to be respected. And like I said, you know what, the last thing that I said on my note, and I don't know if you can see it right down there, I said, what a difference a peach makes. What a difference a peach makes, because that's where we are. With Shamea now being a full-time housewife, not being a friend of the show, having her own voice, having her own story, wanting to give the world who she really is, Portia doesn't like it at all. What a difference a peach makes. And that was the end of the episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed my review. I hope I wasn't too long. Like I said, there was a lot going on in the episode. I didn't want to rush through it. I didn't want to have a super long video because I know you guys have so much to do otherwise. But I still wanted to give you enough where if you haven't seen the episode or you can't watch the episode, at least you got enough information from me and you would feel as if, you know, you do know what the episode was about. Please like and subscribe, you know, like this video and subscribe to my channel, guys. You know, hey, I would really appreciate your support. And I haven't said this in a while, but leave me a comment sometimes. You know, like I really appreciate that when people leave comments like LTV Productions. Shout out to LTV Productions every single time that I do a video. And I know that's not everybody's thing. I'm not begging for you to do that, and I'm not trying to get you to do something that you don't want to do. But I really like reading the comments sometimes, and I really appreciate LTV Productions because a lot of times, he does leave me a comment, and I love interacting with him. Like I've never seen him before, never met him, but I love interacting with him, even if we're just going back and forth, you know. And most of the time, you know, sometimes with the Real Housewives of Atlanta, we tend to agree, but he still gives me a different perspective on things or how he sees it sometimes, and I really appreciate that. So guys, leave me a comment or just say, hey girl, hey, I would love that too. Like I'll give you a shout out right on back, you know, like, hey girl, you know, hey boo, how you doing? But have a good day, guys. Like I said, I keep saying that there is more to come. I do want to do other things, like as I was getting ready today. I don't really, when I'm just filming this, I don't, you know, do a whole beat. I don't do a lot to my face. But, you know, I had bought some new MAC eyeliner and I don't like it. So I would love to even talk about that. Like I said, I'm going to do some other things too, because I really like doing this. You know, if you know me, you know I'm a conversationalist. I love to talk. You know, I spend a lot of time giving people advice, so I would love to do some other things. And so, but you know, just right now I did want to do something kind of like that I was familiar with, which is the shows. So go back and watch some of my other videos if this is your first time or you're not familiar with me. I did the whole season of Married to Medicine. I think I did a couple of reviews on Salt Lake City. I did a little video about Potomac. You know, just go back and watch my stuff and see if you like it, you know, or see how how you feel about it. Tell me what you thought about this episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Do you agree with anything that I said? Do you think Shamea and Portia will be friends? We know as of today they're still not friends, but do you think they'll ever get back on track? How do you feel about Mr. Charles Oakley? Do you feel like, you know, he's a little too cold? What do you think, you know, Drew and Ralph should do? Do you think it's okay for Ralph to stay in the house, or, you know, should he move? You know, should he be doing that? How do you feel about Drew? Do you feel like Drew is covering for this man, or she's just doing the absolute best that she can? Let me know, guys. Have a great evening. Be safe out there. And remember that I love you guys. I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful day. Bye.